All right, joining us today are Jaynee and Karl Singer. They are the CEOs and founders of LA Collective. Maybe for those who haven't seen or heard of LA Collective or read our great piece on GrowWire, can you describe what LA Collective is?
Yeah, for sure. So we launched LA Collective about 3 years ago with the premise of being an e-commerce company first and also a fashion incubation company for celebrities, personalities, and fashion influencers in the digital space. And what LA Collective does is gets behind a certain talent, builds their brand soup to nuts, runs the operations and launches it to market through our e-commerce platform, which is lacollective.com. We also partner with some third-party retailers. And then we see that brand through in market, follow through on the marketing advertising fronts, and really grow and scale each brand that we put in our portfolio.
How many celebrities are you working with now?
Currently, there's 3 celebrity brands in our portfolio, and we have 2 house brands, which we own through LA Collective.
Got it. So we're here today to really kind of talk about, what's happening in all industries, but in particular your set of industries, I guess. So we can talk a little bit about that, but in terms of the coronavirus and its impact on business, let's just kind of start broad, and then we can kind of narrow in. What are some of the biggest impacts that this crisis has caused for your business in particular?
I mean, I think for us, it's been supply chain. It's been an interesting turn for our business. We've seen a lot of growth, but through that have had to adapt to the mandated closures in the supply chain side of the business and the industry overall. So adapting to that has been the most critical factor, I think, of continuing our growth, building our inventory, and being able to try to operate as normal as possible. Just going into our fabric suppliers, our production facilities, our warehousing, one, making sure everybody is safe and healthy, but 2, trying to maintain business so we can continue to grow.
Have you seen changes on the demand side from your customers?
We've seen an uptick in demand, actually. So we've had last week, we actually hit one of our peak revenue run rates in the business. So we've seen an incredible uptick in demand for our product, our business overall, and the way we've been positioned, which is great. I think, again, just adapting to the supply side of the business is where we've put a lot of our focus on.
And you guys, and just to kind of explain, you guys are involved in pretty much the entire supply chain all the way through to, as you say, your e-commerce sites and how you sell through retail. So That includes manufacturing, design, also warehousing, shipping, yep, all of that. In all of those spots, where have the biggest pain points come?
I think in the manufacturing side. So that being dealing with suppliers, that's fabric suppliers, trim suppliers, and then our factories. So from a fabric supply standpoint, what we've done to adapt it, because a lot of them have either closed or they're opened maybe a couple days a week, and kind of limited in that capacity. So kind of what we've done on that side is we've increased our inventory in certain fabrics that we know we can make garments in that sell well all the time. So we've almost tripled our investment in inventory across our fabric suppliers. So we know at any given time we have that fabric on hand, we can run it through our factories and produce the inventory needed to supply our customers. And from a factory standpoint, actually producing the garments, we're open and operational. We're limiting the amount of employees in the factories at a given time, where on a regular time period or going back before this happened, we had at any given time 80 to 100 sewers. Now we're kind of narrowing that down to 40 to 50 sewers. So everybody kind of has their social distancing within the factory floor, and we're, able to maintain a healthy environment and not overcrowding anything at all.
One of the things that we're hearing from some manufacturers is just in terms of, maybe now thinking more about having more sources of, well, not necessarily manufacturing, but supply even, and some of them that have supply and manufacturing happen in China, being able to diversify. It sounds like you guys are pretty well diversified. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, we are, and because we're vertical and we can manage and operate our manufacturing directly, it gives us a bit of an advantage versus outsourcing, especially outsourcing overseas right now, because we can, directly adapt to this environment quickly, and have that be impactful on our business kind of in real time, versus the outsourcing model and diversify, which is what a lot of businesses are doing and should be doing, but also adds layers of complexity, especially given the situation at hand.
Did you, when the virus started to hit and everybody got concerned, did you do some scenario planning for a downturn rather than an uptick? What did that look like?
So we did. We were actually, it was interesting because we had conversations with our board about this whole thing when it was happening, and what we think the impacts to our business would be. And there was a consensus at the table that pretty much said, well, there might be an advantage point to this, so prepare for that, but also prepare for the downturn. And the downturn being, for us, we're a lean operation, so we never keep a lot of inventory on hand, because we think inventory is the death of all fashion businesses. And we wanted to avoid that. And that's been kind of a brand ethos of ours from day one. So we were protected in that way, wherein if there was a total downturn, we knew we had X amount of inventory that we were going to sit on, but we knew that inventory wasn't going to crush our business. Where on the flip side, to plan for the uptick, okay, and I think that's where a lot of the thought went in, was how can we fulfill our supply chain and our customer orders in that case? Because we're a lean operation, we don't handle a lot of inventory at a given time. If we see an increase in demand, are we able to fulfill it? And we kind of balanced out those things, and luckily for us, it was the latter, and we had an uptick in business. But we've also kind of carefully planned with all of our employees and our warehouse employees and things like that for both scenarios, making sure, the staff that we've limited, the cycles are kind of in place where everybody's getting hours. So nobody, the hours might not be as long as they were previous to kind of this outbreak, but all employees are going through a cycle where they're receiving working hours and still getting paid and compensated during these times, which is important to us.
Yeah, I want to ask a little bit more of that, but I wanted to touch on one other thing, which is the retail side. And some of your lines do sell through major retail, brick and mortar.
Yeah.
I imagine obviously that business has been impacted. So not only have you seen an uptick, you must have more than made up for the loss of sales that are coming that way.
Yeah, we have. So that business did stop because a lot of the bigger retailers aren't receiving any new goods, of course. So we were able actually we had orders on hand from retailers that got pushed out, but we ended up just taking that inventory back because we needed to sell it direct to consumer. So we were able to kind of, in some ways, I guess, take advantage of that.
And your suppliers, the ones that are, and manufacturers, the ones that have had to scale back or close down, are you concerned when things come back that they'll still be around? And what are you thinking about in terms of how companies like yours, it's not, obviously you can't save everybody, but that companies like yours can do to help them through this tough time?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to give as much business as we can right now. And I think that's the way we can help some of the smaller production houses, sample rooms even, all the way down to pattern makers, make money during this time. I mean, I actually had a sample room and she closed down. It's outside of our operations, but she had closed down her office. And I speak frequently with her because we give her a ton of business every week. And I told her, open up. I'll give you guys a small production run to keep you busy, and I'll give you a ton of sampling to do so you can maintain, at least some sort of revenue stream during this time. So for us, and the industry, especially fashion and the local manufacturing industry, is made up of a ton of small businesses, small factories, mom and pop type shops. So, doing the best we can to allocate out some production and some development to some of the smaller businesses is, definitely been the effort of ours to where we can do it. And I think, hopefully a lot of the businesses can sustain through everything going on.
So let's move to the warehouse distribution side of things. And obviously there are concerns with, working in tight spaces and handling goods and, keeping things safe. How are you looking at that and how are you managing that?
So our warehouse, we've limited our staff every day and we have kind of turn times half a day. So we've probably cut down 50% of our warehouse staff, which has led to small delays in fulfilling of orders. But at the same time, we would rather put the safety and health first and make sure we're delivering that product carefully. So kind of that was our first step. We cut our staff down by 50% in the warehouse. We cycle that in kind of half days. So first half of the day is one group of staff, second half of the day is another group of staff. And from a cleanliness standpoint, everything is always wiped down, sanitized. All of our warehouse employees wear gloves and masks, which they probably change 3 to 4 times during their shifts. And, through that, I feel like we've been able to protect against, or at least try to protect against, the outbreak and everything that's going on.
I'm wondering, Jaynee, how are you guys, how has the two of you, your roles changed pre and post? How would you describe that?
See each other a lot more. We're married, so we live together.
Yeah.
I think we work closely together more so. Because, a lot of the times I think I'm on the operation side. Jaynee is obviously on the creative side. So she's designing collections day to day with the talents and things like that. And I'm more running the business and the operations and the manufacturing side. So a lot of the days our lives are separate and then reconjoined. Now they're just conjoined. Mm-hmm. So, but I think it's been interesting because we've been able to kind of cross over and, work in each other's, areas of focus and give ideas and input there. While Jaynee obviously focuses more on the creative side, I sometimes get restless and jump in and, try to weigh my thoughts there and vice versa. So maybe that's it.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of people on different ends of the spectrum. Some people say they're working harder than ever before. And some people say, oh, I have more time to do the things I've been, wanting to do for a long time. And I wonder if on the creative side, you do have that time to think through some of the ideas that were kind of stewing in the back of your head.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, I think for us, we're working harder than ever. And I think, I think there's an opportunity in the marketplace. I think fashion has gone through this roller coaster ride the past 4 years. And I think this is another kind of part of that roller coaster. And at the end of it, there will be kind of another shakeup in the space. So companies that can really be hyper-focused during this time and take advantage where you can and see the opportunity where it is, can come out even stronger at the end.
Yeah, I think we're hearing some of that too. Do you think, we've heard from some people that they're having to, whether it's change a business model or change how they look at their supply chain, or some new innovative ideas that have come out and they're like, gosh, we wish we'd have thought of this all along. We're going to keep doing this when we're past this, or are any of those kinds of ideas, things that you've talked about in that way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, a lot of our marketing strategies that we had in place, some shifted obviously because, we do a lot of events, pop-up shops, things of that nature, which obviously right now you can't do. And probably for the next couple months aren't going to be interesting marketing initiatives to have in place. So we've shifted that marketing to more digitally based. We've tested a lot of new advertising channels that we've seen kind of upswings in. You look at TikTok, for instance. I think they've had a massive upturn during this whole pandemic, and we kind of noticed it 2 weeks ago, everybody joining the platform, and we are starting to run ads now through TikTok, which is a totally new channel. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for cheap media and to acquire some new customers, and also testing more digitally creative ways to market the product, wherein pre this we were doing workouts at studios or partnering with really cool fitness studios across the country and doing an LA Collective takeover or specific brand takeover, wherein now we're doing kind of these partnerships with different, whether they're personalities or celebrities or digital influencers or models or fitness trainers, but these kind of in-home workouts that we can stream live through our social media pages, we can repurpose through emails and different channels, have actually done incredibly well and at a much less cost than what we were doing previously with actual brick and mortar retail in-person takeovers. So, looking at that, I think there's an interesting underlying value there where people respond really well to the kind of digital landscape of things versus the in-person. But, I still think there's the importance of that in-person customer experience over time.
You talked a little bit about what you're doing with employees, and I think that's great. You've been able to give them all hours, maybe a little reduced, but how did you manage those conversations? That's something people are struggling with now, whether they're having to cut hours or even lay people off or furlough them. How do you have that conversation in such a devastating time?
Our employee ecosystem is like a family. We're very close to all of our employees. I think, the culture at our company is no matter who you are in the company, whether you're an executive, a senior management, or you're a warehouse staff, we know everybody's name. We deal with everybody because our operations are, not now, but our offices prior to this shutdown, we had our front office, we had our warehouse, we have our factory all in one space. So we always had very good touch points with our warehouse employees, our factory employees. We were able to walk those floors on a daily basis, talk to everybody, and really develop that relationship. So when we had these conversations, I think for us it was a little bit easier because we have such a close-knit relationship with every employee, all the way down to the bottom. And for that, we came into the conversation not in panic, but more in a way of saying, listen, there is this pandemic happening. There might be the case where your hours are limited. However, we're going to do our best to cycle through everything and make sure you're getting the hours you need and the minimum you need money to really make in a week. And, really it impacts your hourly employees a lot. So it was important for us to, talk with each of them, let them, voice their struggles to us and their concerns to us, and then come back at that and say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to make sure you're earning enough in the next couple months where you can cover your expenses and your bills that are due.
That's great. If one last thing I think is if you look out over, I mean, your company kind of covers a lot of different spaces, apparel and fashion and manufacturing and direct to consumer and also through retail.
Right.
You seem to have chosen a model that is has some resilience in this kind of time. But if you look out at your peers and competitors who are struggling, what sort of advice have you talked with some of them? Are there some things that you're seeing happen in the industry that would give them cause for optimism or new ideas that are promising?
I think at the end of this, and for people and the companies that are struggling, I think a lot of the retailers, the brick and mortar retailers, are obviously taking a hit, from the huge ones like Macy's to even the smaller boutiques. My suggestion would be to, at this point right now, invest in the digital space. If they haven't, put forth an effort on the digital side of their business, whether they're a one-store boutique or a chain of boutiques, if 70% of their business was brick and mortar, 30% was retail, take this time now to invest in digital and, see where you can kind of build on that. Because I think at the end of this, the shift, even more so than it already is happening, because over the past 3 years, the shift has been going digital. So I think at the end of this, it will be even more digitally focused. So my suggestion would be to, invest time and efforts into the digital side of your business, growing those channels, and, trying to capitalize there.
Fabulous. Well, thank you again for joining us. Best of luck and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank
It's great
you.
talking to you.
Great talking to you.